Warm greetings. This is August 16, and Nuri wrote a letter earlier this morning. And so Nuri Muhammad, representative of Belize, appointed 1972 by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is my response, Brother Nuri, to your article, and one I find interesting, which you dated today, entitled "Who is Moving Up and Who is Being Left Behind." Now, Belize is going on 45 years of independence. We are still slicing the pie by ethnic groupings here because governments, both past and present, throughout the 45 years, have failed to flesh out the Constitution, that which already affords equal rights and does, equal rights regardless when it comes to gender, ethnicity, or religion. Since 1981's independence, all the governments, including Price, Esquivel, Musa, Barrow, and now the Briceño administration, have failed to pass the necessary policy and legislation so as to reflect the universal standard of acceptance, regardless, that the Constitution espouses. What they do is continue with the prevailing policy of so-called tolerance. But a spouse who only tolerates the other sooner or later ends in divorce. And a wall of protection in the long run becomes a wall of imprisonment. So the universal standard has to be acceptance for it to work. The government, which will take us into this government, our 45th year of independence, come September, that's next month. Instead, what it did the other day was attempt to abuse the Constitution with the so-called 13th Amendment to take away the rights of already enshrined in our Constitution, which is, our Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The 13th Amendment, which is a crime, to amend the Constitution to take away rights is a crime. It's an abuse. Instead, what they should do, what they should have done for the going on 45 years, is create one society with the bundle of rights already in the Constitution. Flesh it out with a universal standard of acceptance, accepting all Belizeans just the way they are, regardless of ethnicity, gender, religious belief. For the tools that symbolize nationhood are the Constitution, flag, national anthem, common currency, and common passport. We need a universal standard of acceptance for the 422,000, not a breakdown of majority versus minority, and so-called indigenous, right side versus south side, us against them kind of society with a universal standard of acceptance, which is what we need. What would there be need for walls of protection? Why? What need would there be? Why do we need a minister of religion to serve as the whims, at the beck and call of the majority? To kiss the ring? To kowtow? God is a spirit, man. Come on. And well, God doesn't have agenda. God, whether you want God to be male or female, God doesn't have agenda. We all need to return. So in this male-dominant society, with chauvinists, imagine, we all need to return to our spirit core, having only become life because we are God-breathed. So the Constitution says, irrespective of gender. But here we are, the church dictating to policymakers that men are born to lead. And they are sucking it up, and they have been for the past 44 years. What kind of nonsense is that? So what we need is spirituality, not religion. Policymakers should not relent to the religious authority. Religion selling hope is like a dog chasing after its tail. It's psychological, purely. Politicians are the ones able to sell and deliver on hope. For hope is tangible, i.e. the hope of owning a home by age 30 in a country of beliefs where 75% of the population were born after independence, 44 years and under. With regard to your headline, Nuri, who is moving up and who is being left behind, my answer is that the United Nations is not only misguided, but has led the world down a foul road in measuring human well-being with indicators from the outside environment. And by using comparative analysis, people are individuals and as such indivisible. So they should be trending in becoming the best version of themselves instead of comparing to a so-called gold standard, become like Mr. Jones. Because that's a rat race. Joy and happiness do not come from the environment. All human experiences are generated from within the person, within people, within individuals. Holistically, well-being is inclusive of physical, mental, and spiritual health. The way people think, feel, and experience life all occur and are engendered from within themselves, from inside. Whereas experiences may be stimulated from the outside, they are all manufactured from within. We are chemical soup. We are chemical factories. Because people are chemical factories, able to create and maintain pleasantness in their system. Minds, when in their mind, when they make it pleasant, they become peaceful and joyful. Creating pleasantness in the emotions make you loving and compassionate. Pleasantness in your body make you healthy and experience pleasure, as well as creating pleasantness in your energy system makes you blissful and ecstatic. So with inner engineering is how you're able to take 100% control of the way you think, feel, and experience life. All of which are purely psychological. There's your existential reality. Reality never changes. That's your 10. And the fact that that's the boundary of time. And the fact that you are bounded by space, your height and shoulder width. Those are your existential realities. Yeah? That your physical will go back to the dust where it came from, but you will continue to exist in the spirit realm. So your core is your spirit, man, not your physicality. Your spirit is driven from within yourself with your consciousness and awareness. The way you experience God is to have a relationship with Him through your consciousness and awareness. From within. Individuals can only influence the environment, okay? Because other people have a say-so. So when things aren't going your way, it's either going somebody else's way or God's way. That's it. Where there is a pleasant environment, people call it a success. Well-being is non-physical in nature, my friend. So food, shelter, and clothing, as well as possessions and attachments, can only stimulate well-being from outside. Similarly, stress does not come from the environment. It is the individual that stresses his or her load, yeah, instead of learning how to carry it. For if he or she were carrying a calf from it were only 50 pounds, she would still be carrying it, right? If she were using the right technique, when it becomes 250 pounds, all that will occur is that she will become stronger. Yeah? A good thing. If our Belize government, in conclusion, remains unsure of how to proceed into the future, how to project the measures it needs to take, then I hereby remind it, because it appears it hasn't yet done so, that since 1981, the United Nations forged a Declaration of Peace, commonly referred to as the Declaration of the Elimination of All Forms of Intolerance, consistent with our darn Constitution, and discrimination, all forms of discrimination based on religion or belief, yeah, which the United Nations General Assembly adopted as of November, way back 25th, 1981, the same year as our independence. So courting Belizeans to join a religious movement or organization is discriminatory and divisive. It goes against the nature of the one God who created, the 8.3 billion world population. God who is Father of all. He's not my God, your God. He's God to everybody. My Father, He's Father to everybody. The 8.3 billion world population. God is impartial, may I remind you. So that's one. The other thing is that as of 11th of December 2014, the United Nations General Assembly also adopted, like I said, the Declaration of Yoga. So it is incumbent on government mainstream to mainstream this event into the curriculum. So from an early age, Belizeans are taught to adopt a universal identity, and as well as a national identity. For God is one. Yeah. When I was a diplomat serving actively, and I traveled the world over on behalf of Belize business, I didn't go as a Garifuna. I didn't go as a Dangrigan. I represented the country, the flag, the Constitution, the anthem, the common passport, common currency. Yeah? When you step outside of Belize, that's how you identify. With these symbols, not with your ethnicity. And it would be fit to engender patriotism at this juncture where you mainstream this into the curriculum. This day in June, it's in June, I believe it is, right? That is celebrated the International Day of Yoga since 2014. June 21. Every year. So adopt it into and mainstream it into the Constitution, so kids from an early age adopt a universal and a national identity with the one flag, anthem, symbol, currency, common passport. I know they are doing a little something, but look, it needs to grab. There needs to be buy-in. To know about someone else's culture, you have to pay keen, undivided attention. Sit down, be educated, eat, drink, be educated. Whatever that person's cuisine is, that whatever that person wears, appreciate that person's culture. We are a melting pot. So yeah, and that day of yoga annually, mainstreaming to the Constitution. By the way, yoga means union. So that's how you unite. You unite yourself. You bring yourself into union, your body, mind, and spirit under one roof. And then in reaching across, you have to realize that conflict begins in the individual. That's where it's born. When she fails to resolve it within him or herself, that's when they take it outside. Appreciate that. That's how wars begin. They are born inside individuals with issues. So that's where, at that juncture, every year, mainstreamed into the curriculum, you teach about volunteerism in a practical way and community involvement in a practical way. Similar to what you're doing there with the George Price Day or holiday. Therefore, let it be so. Ito Allah. Kaya si saya. Ayo.